Jacky, my friend, welcome to the podcast. Thrilled that you are joining me.
Happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me on, Tim.
Of course. So, I need to start with a bit of what do I call it? Like an announcement. Your business, Indexsy, is like my dream business. It's what I've always had in the background, whereas to like where I want to be and where the end result of all of this internet madness has been over the last 15 years. So I'll just bust right into it. I mean, you're a pretty young guy. It's uncommon to see somebody in your position that has built up such a portfolio of web assets. So like, how did it, well, actually, first off, could you please explain what Indexsy is? And then how did that even come into fruition? Like, how did you decide to be an online business buyer?
Sure. Well, Indexsy started off as my SEO agency, actually. And then, yeah, sort of did well in the agency space, but then figured, like, wait a second. Why am I growing businesses for other people if I'm so confident I can do it for myself? So started doing that. Exited, flipped out of some assets, got some capital in hand, and then started buying them up and currently cash flowing them, but had a couple exits in the past couple years. So yeah, got a good emergency fund in place, so I can just take some degenerate swings now.
That's hysterical because it sounds like your story and my story is actually very similar. I did the same thing. In my opinion, SEO is still the best bet. And we're going to talk about that. You had a tweet recently, which really cracked me up about SEO. But my story was almost exactly the same. After doing it for 10 years, I thought, man, I can do this in any industry, basically, with a little bit of self-education. I'm a pretty decent writer, and I think words still are the most powerful marketing channel on the internet. And so I eventually just started, saying to myself, hey, I like the gaming space. Why don't I start a gaming blog and then turn that into cash flow? And then another idea and another idea. Some of them work, some of them don't work. But I think SEO and writing has been like the best foundation for me, and I think for you, to be able to do that. Would you agree?
So I do see the benefits in copywriting, but more so on, how do I say, like direct response copywriting. And, it's a way of showing your personality as well. But nowadays, I feel like SEO has skewed more towards being a bit more analytical with your approach with the emergence of AI. But yeah, it's something we can dive deeper into at a later point if you want. But yeah, I definitely have become a better writer since tweeting more. I was an absolute garbage writer. Probably one of the worst you've ever seen. It's pretty embarrassing.
All right. If you were a bad writer, how did you get into SEO in the first place? They're usually pretty connected.
Well, I actually, till this day, have never written a blog post ever. So it has all been outsourced, funny enough. Yeah, but I think I've gotten to a decent point where I'm confident enough that I can write a blog post. It's just not the best use of my time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And to a large extent, I agree. That confuses me though, because I enjoy your newsletter, marketingletter.com. It looks like it's on Beehive. So how, if you're not writing these, and by the way, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. I think this is actually really good advice, because a lot of people that come to me are saying, I just don't have time to write all of this stuff. Like, I don't enjoy writing, but I see what you're doing with building an email list and building a website and driving traffic. So how are you doing it? How are you personally doing it if you're not writing this? Are you coming up with the outline? Are you sending it to somebody that you trust? What's the scheme look like?
Yeah, so I do write some of the newsletters. I just don't write blog posts, if that makes sense. Yeah, the monthly newsletters on my net worth and revenue updates are obviously written by me. When I first started the newsletter, I wrote most of them. nowadays it's like I work closely with one of my ghostwriters, and yeah, it's been great ever since. He has gotten my tone of voice down pretty well, I think. Maybe he's a bit cheesier than me, but yeah, it's fine. It's cool.
So on this tweet then, on the topic of SEO, I love this, man. This really, really cracked me up because people have been telling me that SEO is dead since I started. And now with AI, SEO has been more dead than it's ever been. But on my end, I'm seeing it work better than it ever has. And so the tweet I'm referencing, what was this? August 8th, so 3 days ago. We're recording on the 11th. It just says, if SEO is dead, I assure you, I'll be there to milk it to zero, with a nice little bag of money emoji. What are you referring to here? And in this example, what are you afraid about SEO, about what's going to happen? Do you think the whole thing is going to get wiped out? What's your gut tell you with how easy it is to create AI generated content now?
Yeah, I think how I feel about it is I try to reference it similar to the .com bubble of 2000. The most amount of money made during the .com bubble was at its peak. So when everyone knew it was a bubble, that's when the most amount of money was made. So that's when everyone was scared, but that's where all the money was made. So I believe that in the trailing, I think in the last 2 years of SEO as we know it, that will be where the most amount of money can be made. So I am there to ride it. But I am also aware that there are risks and headwinds with AI. And I'm actually a more conservative investor in the sense that I'd rather be very late than wrong on certain things. So I take it like, yeah, I take it like that. I am purchasing wise, I'm putting a pause on most things unless I come across an amazing deal. Then that's something I would look into. But other than that, I wouldn't be swinging these multi-six-figure deals anytime soon.
So when you say wouldn't be swinging deals, you mean because you think it's just so volatile with what's happening with content and with online traffic or with SEO? Like, are you speaking specifically within the AI and the SEO space, or are you just talking about business in general because of the landscape?
Yeah, so content sites that utilize SEO traffic and are selling at 3 to 4x EBITDA, it isn't something I would be picking up at because those multiples are pretty much a bit lower than COVID times, but yes, it's just with a 3 to 4 year payback period, it's not something I'm interested in. So if I come across a deal where they're selling for like 2x EBITDA, I would pick it up. So it's all about the price, right? And I have to calculate bull, bear, and base case on the site. And like, what does that look like if the site tanked 80% tomorrow? Like, how long will it take for me to recover my money? That's like pretty much how I have to calculate everything.
It happens. I've had many sites where you wake up one day and you get some kind of algorithm update and you think, oh, nothing to worry about. And then a week later, you're 80% gone. I mean, it definitely does happen. But this is semantics here, and we have to make sure that we talk about like the definitions, right? When you talk about a major content site, you're talking about a site where the majority of the traffic that gets sent to the site is done through search, basically through inbound search.
Correct.
But do you think that content sites in general, like written content, probably long form content on a website, is a bad play and everything is just going to move over to social media? Or do you think it's just the inbound search in general that is in danger?
Yeah, I think the niche sites as we know it, especially sites in the informational, like that monetize heavily off informational keywords and using display advertising will probably get wrecked if SGE comes out, like the Google's like whole search experience changes. And the reason for that is because when people are searching, can dogs eat lettuce? They'll immediately show a response. So you won't need to click into anything. It's similar to how if you search the price of Bitcoin, it has like a chart for you. You're not clicking anything. That wasn't the case several years ago. And I think your drop in traffic will be that of number one slot of like what the price of Bitcoin is, if that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. I mean, we used to call it the rich snippet back in the day, where the answer was just on the open graph. So anybody listening, just Google what time is it, and you don't have to click on anything. It just tells you the time. And if anyone has experimented or gotten access to Bard, you can see. And on the podcast, Ethan and I actually went through the announcement. I don't know if you saw like the AI announcement. It was this big thing in this outdoor tent in Silicon Valley, and this woman was wearing these bright orange shoes, and it was cool because they made a real point in the announcement or the presentation to say that there's still links available. I think because they're just afraid to scare off everybody. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, that's like Google's attempt to try to survive, because if nobody's clicking links, sure, SEOs are in trouble, but paid ads are in trouble too. So it's so hard to wrap your head around like how this whole landscape is going to come together.
I agree. And I think they did come out with like an updated screenshot of what it would look like, and they do have links in it. But honestly, that looks so cluttered. I don't even know if that'll pass the UX team's like look through. It looked horrible. So I'd be lying if I said I knew what it would look like. So hence why for now I'm just sitting on the sidelines and waiting to be late. I don't like to try to see what it's going to look like and then make a bet on that. It's not worth it. Yeah.
So if you're sitting on the sidelines for niche content hubs, what are you not sitting on the sidelines with? Like what sandbox are you playing in now? What excites you? Is it all social media based? Is it building a following that way? Is it newsletter based? Is it something totally outside of like what the Twitter bros talk about every day? What's exciting you right now about online business?
Yeah, I think e-com I've done for a couple of years. That still excites me. I still see a lot of potential in that. What else? So building a personal brand is also very important. I think people want to follow other people, and they don't necessarily love reading a blog post of like John Doe. You know what I mean? And yeah, so I've been building the newsletter. We're trying to build the personal brand, but that's taking way too long. And and focusing on e-com, and just overall just trying to stack that MRR, man.
It's so interesting to me because the way that business flows, it's like cyclical, because 10 years ago, the conversation was retail e-com is dead. You can't compete with Amazon. Even if you do, eventually they're just going to see what you're doing, make their own product for like 2 cents cheaper. And I mean, there were examples about toilet paper and like battery stuff that you wouldn't even think of, where they just find a thing and they say, I can just price everybody out of this and lose money for a while until eventually everybody just goes to Amazon for their toilet paper, right? But then Shopify came around and they armed the rebels, and so it's like a swing in the other direction. Are you seeing a lot of like direct to consumer e-com opportunities, or you're seeing it more on like the wholesale side that regular people don't necessarily see every day?
Yeah, I think during COVID there was obviously a huge jump in uh online consumption, meaning people were ordering more online. So D2C sites saw a huge surge in that. And I think people got complacent, especially the D2C sites. They expected it to keep going on forever. And Shopify, you noticed Shopify and Amazon, they all overhired during that time. And that means in turn, D2C sites were running their projections based off of similar numbers. And everyone overshot. Everyone's getting wrecked right now. You see several companies going bankrupt. Namely like Made.com, a huge furniture store that was publicly traded on the UK stock exchange, got completely wrecked, and I think sold at a liquidation sale for like £2 million or something like that. It's insane. So I think it swung very hard one way during COVID, and now it's swinging the other way. So I think what will happen now is the people who are able to emerge in the D2C space victorious, I think will be a very resilient business in the future, in like the coming years. So similar to, I wouldn't compare it to the .com, but it will be like, you know how Microsoft and Amazon merged from the .com burst, after it burst. So the companies that survive that, I think, will be very strong.
So I agree totally, but we're talking about like big companies with warehouses. What about just like you said, John Doe down the street? Maybe he's got a barbecue sauce that he put together in his kitchen, right? Is there any space for direct-to-consumer small business, let's just call them the Shopify type stores that we've seen over the past 5 years? Or do you think all of that's going to get like consumed into these major conglomerates?
No, I think they'll still be around, and I always assumed that my store was a small store, but that's because maybe I need to go touch grass and I'm comparing with people on Twitter, but it does like mid 5 figures a month. But I always thought it was like a small store because everyone and their dog on Twitter is doing like freaking 500K a month. So I thought we were like, quite small. So I guess you're right. If someone wants to sell, like, why don't we walk through this? If John Doe down the street wants to sell their like homemade barbecue sauce and it's amazing, all I would do is just start creating content around that, like the process of creation of like the creation of the barbecue sauce, and then just document it. And every order that comes in, you would just pack it individually, film that, post it on TikTok, YouTube, Reels, and people seem to love that. People like to support small businesses, and I think there's ways to be scrappy when you're that small that enterprise side businesses won't be able to do or replicate.
You said two things there, which are a little bit off topic, but definitely worth noting. One, like, everybody is a billionaire on Twitter. I have to continuously remind myself that, like, hey, I have a great life. Like, I have a lot to be grateful for. I get to do work that I do every day. And I wonder so much how much of it is smoke and mirrors. And I can always tell because my revenue was this, right? But what does that mean? Like, revenue doesn't actually mean, it means something, but it's not a really good indicator of success in a business, right? And so just quick side note there. Anybody who's comparing yourself to the people on Twitter, don't do that. It's like not good for you, but it's also not good for your business because most likely you're comparing on false metrics. But let's go back to that idea of document, right? Everyone's heard Gary Vee say that before, and I'm not like the biggest Gary Vee follower because I've seen a lot of people go all in on this idea, like, let me post 80 social media posts a day and basically end up getting nothing out of it but a whole bunch of social media content, And so my approach is a lot more methodical and like sales and actual metrics driven. I just think there's better ways to approach it. However, I fully buy into this idea of like document. And it's been the really the foundation of all the content I create, where I always tell myself I don't have advice to give, I have experience to share. And so all I do is share my experience. And there's something really, really captivating about that. And I think you nailed it. Like, this can be true for a barbecue sauce brand. This can be true for, I mean, I don't know. My sister's a personal trainer, right? Obviously, that's an easy fit. I mean, I see stuff these days, people doing millions of views on YouTube of videos of them cutting other people's grass. And I'm like 5 minutes into this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm watching this video. Like, I started here making fun of it, and now I can't stop watching this dude weed whack a sidewalk, right? So this, I guess, just expand upon that. Well, what are your thoughts of this concept of like documenting your process?
Yeah, and you can even do it with online businesses. You just take Peter Levels, for example, at levels.io, Peter Levels. I don't know if you know him. He's the guy behind. Yeah. All he does is document every step of the way. Like, he's like, today I am developing photo AI, a generative like profile picture app or something like that. And he would talk about all the mishaps that he had. Like, oh, I can't figure out how to debug this code. And he would just post it on Twitter, and people would just help him out. So it's kind of like, it's sort of like building in public, developing in public, and then people who helped him along the way feel like they're connected with the brand somehow. And is just like a sense of community in that sense. And I think there's something very, very, like you mentioned, captivating about it. When you take people on this journey of like creating a product or service, and you document everything, every step of the way, people feel a real connection. And I think that's what people are looking for nowadays online. That might change in the future, but I think as of right now, that's what we're looking at.
Yeah, I don't think that will change. That's actually one of the things that I am most bullish on, is just that technology comes and goes, but our brain stems are the same things that they were 200,000 years ago. And I don't know how you can come up with some kind of software that's going to take people's intrinsic need to just be connected to somebody, follow them on their journey, like root for them emotionally. I was thinking Casey Neistat with this. Like, I think he really is, I mean, trendy term, I can't come up with anything else, but like the godfather of that whole idea of vlogging, not in just the talking head type sense, but let me bring you with me on my experience throughout the day. And I think that is a good, you can bank on that. And whatever it is you're doing, you know, the SEO algorithms might change, the pay-per-click landscape might change, but if you can bring people along with you on your journey, I think that style works no matter what it is that you're trying to sell.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Very, very bullish on that right now. But yeah, I think maybe the format will change. Maybe it won't be text-based in the future. Maybe it'll be video-based. And we see a slight shift in that already. But we'll see with the changes coming with X. And
oh yeah, X. I still can't get used to it. So dumb.
yeah, I think interesting change. Pretty much burns off all the brand building Twitter has done throughout the years. But I think it'll be used interchangeably until X comes out with, or Twitter comes out with, a feature of its own that's unique to itself. And then I think only then will people start to see like if there's a use case that's significant there. But I think his idea of swinging for the WeChat of the Western world is very bold. It's been tried before. I don't think it worked, but I will hold off on my criticism until I see it either fail or succeed.
What are you working on personally? I noticed that you don't have a lot of the companies on your website that that you either have ownership in or partial ownership in, and that's fine. I'm actually not trying to get you to tell me about your companies, but without having your portfolio, it was difficult for me to find examples of things that you've done in terms of I've taken this project and I've brought it here. Do you have an example that you'd be willing to share with us?
Yeah, sure. Are you mean in any sense, or are you
Any
talking
sense.
strictly SEO?
No,
Oh, yeah. Yeah. If your audience wants to find my first success online, you can probably Google my name plus Oberlo, which is a Shopify drop shipping app, and that was like my first $1 million I made online. So that was exciting, and it was during the heydays of drop shipping, and I think it was my business partner approached me at the time. I was working at a full-time job actually. And he approached me. He said, "Hey man, I think there's something there with this dropshipping thing. We should try it out." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's do it." He was running paid ads, Facebook advertising at a like homeware company. So he's like, "Yeah, we should do something in homeware space, but not directly competing because mess with his non-compete." But so we pooled together like $5,000 each, and we're saying like we're gonna burn that money and we're just gonna try it. And we're going to try our best. And if it fails, it fails. We'll go back to the drawing board. And I think we burnt over the course of like the first month, we burnt like $9,000. And we're like licking our wounds. We're about to call it quits. But then something clicked overnight and we found a winning product. So first day, just imagine we're doing like 1.5K. Second day, it was like 4K. And then we scaled all the way up to like, it was cutlery, actually.
Cool.
Yeah, like some fancy cutlery. And then we were able to scale up to like 250K a month. And then, yeah, it was all great. I felt like we were on top of the world. But then Facebook algorithm changed for dropshipping stores. They clapped us real good. And we didn't get it into our warehouses in the US quick enough. So we went from 250K on top of the world, thinking we're going to exit for like 7 to 8 figures to 80K a month. And like very low margins. We ended up exiting for low 6 figures to a private equity firm that later went bankrupt, so we didn't even get our earnout. But I mean, we both walked away with like nearly, I think, mid 6 figures each. So it was a good time, and it showed us the scale of e-commerce. Because imagine doing 250K in your second month of SEO. That's impossible. It's just a different ballgame, you know?
Totally.
And to me, that was so bizarre. And I was hyped. But we haven't been able to replicate that since then. Maybe in the Q4 months, we do that with Far and Away. But yeah, it's been a slower journey when we're doing it right. Because with dropshipping, you don't have to hold any inventory, right? But with Far and Away, we're buying inventory from Portugal, putting it in our warehouse in Germany, and then you have to deal with logistics, cash flow. Oh, it's a nightmare, man.
I'm always intrigued by people who had the opposite experience because I'm 10 years in and I'm just starting to get to the point where I'm burning money to sell inventory or to generate traffic, just running ads in general. I've never done that. And even now to the point where, you know, I'm just much more liquid now. And so I can put money into other companies and buy equity. And it's exciting, but the experience is like a whole different range of emotions because I mean, it sounds great and you get some good ads going and like, okay, cool. I'm building my newsletter and I'm paying $1 to make $1.50 and everything's good, but sometimes it's not good. And when you were talking about that, you were just burning that money. Like I was getting anxiety about it, and that's never been something that I've had too much experience with. But I'm diving into it now, and I'm really starting to see the value of that just gasoline on the fire type mindset. So I'm getting somewhere with this. I promise. My question to you is, which do you prefer? You know, do you really, if you had to start a new business today, would you go with, okay, I need to raise, you know, 100 grand, have a marketing budget, be able to pump traffic to this product or website or whatever? Or would you take the slow burn content bootstrapping route?
I don't think I would ever raise money. It's
Wow, really?
that you're, yeah, messing up your cap table is probably one of the worst things you could do.
Wow.
I'd be down to do like convertibles, like just debt, but not so much like equity raises, I think, knowing what I know now. But yeah, but the thing is, I've never been in a position since that time I just mentioned where I've been burning money I didn't really have, pretty much savings, since then. So I've been always using cash flow from other businesses into like investing into new projects or like new ventures sort of thing. So I guess your question is more for people just starting out, right? Like I think if I was just starting out right now, I wouldn't be doing any e-commerce because I'm a bit more conservative. So I would do like a service-based business.
Yeah.
And then using that cash flow into something like e-com. But I see a lot of people who start off in services, but they get addicted to it. They get addicted to the cash flow. They get addicted to pretty much the cash flow. That's all you have with service businesses, and they forget about why they started. Like they wanted to fund their own ventures and not have to answer to clients. But I've seen that way too often. They just stay in the service business.
What a breath of fresh air for me personally to hear you say that, because I created a course on it. It sold like 50 grand or so, and I was happy with it. But the whole entire methodology behind what I try to tell people is the best business to start is a service business, because there's no upstart capital. You don't even need anything. Like you don't even need a website if you don't want one. You just need a client, and they're instantly profitable. And even though they're not like sexy, they're still pretty scalable if you're good at hiring. But what I've always said is my agencies have been my investment rounds from myself. And I guess the discipline and like the emotional fortitude to not buy the Lambo and, not buy the house, but take that actual cash flow and then reinvest it in yourself. I've made a ton of mistakes in my life, don't get me wrong, but if there's like a few things that I've definitely can hang my hat on and say like, yeah, I nailed this one, it's been that exact thing. And now, I don't have a investment team like you do. I'm just kind of a solo guy, but I'm in 15 companies now, and it's all from the cash flow that was generated over the last 10 years from my agencies. I don't even necessarily have a question, just a response to that, because I love when people say that. It's like the smartest thing you can do.
I agree, man. I will say that there are people out there slinging services that shouldn't be like the case. For example, I think it's especially prominent in the SEO space.
Yeah.
Like I see some of these guys selling SEO. I check out the clients they worked with. I checked out their own site, and they got no traffic, man. It's like you close a client. Let's say you're incredible at sales and you close a couple of SEO clients, but they'll churn if there is no results, right? And I've seen that way too often with agencies. And hence why I think like if you're going to sell something simpler, like if you're a decent graphic designer, you want to sell logo design services, sure. You want to do a landing page service, great. Those aren't that bad. But when it becomes like more complex, like paid ads management, if you're not driving performance, people will churn like there's no tomorrow. And there's something to be said about like the Twitter SEO agencies, I think.
I agree so much. And I think people misunderstand the actual numbers behind it, because it's so much more profitable to keep a client than it is to gain a client. In the SEO space, the labor itself is like pretty front loaded. And so if you figure out your books, it's usually month like 5 or so that the company can pull back a bit on just the intense amount of labor it takes to get it going. And then, from month 5 on, that's a huge generalization, is when like the company itself really starts to be profitable off that one client. And so it's difficult because SEO seems like this hacker science that, nobody quite understands, but really it's fundamentals and organization and repetition and like research over and over and over again in an industry that you really, really understand. So in your SEO agency, have you been able to replicate these results across different industries? Because my agency specializes in one industry and this is all I do. And I can like totally say I'm the best in the world at that, but I don't mess around with other stuff because I don't feel that confident that I'd be able to put people's money to really, really good use. So in your beginning days with your SEO agency, were you able to replicate that across other industries, or did you pick one and stick with it?
No, it was in my early days, I'll be honest, I took it whatever I could get. But yeah, nowadays, yeah, I'm confident enough we can replicate it just about anywhere. Yeah, pretty darn confident. We're so confident that we've even introduced, I don't know if you've seen on Twitter, but we've started to introduce like a rev share structure. So what that means is like I've been approaching e-com sites with like high authority but low traffic, and just been saying, hey, we'll help you monetize your blog better with affiliate and display ads and $0 out of pocket. And all you have to do is sign our contract where we own the IP of like anything we create and just give us access to the blog, and we'll see you in 3 to 6 months. And man, dude, we're killing it right now. It's like, it's that easy. Because I'm not just, I'm like very confident. I'm confident in, SEO, but I'll be the first to admit I'm not the best in the world. But what I think I'm the best at is monetizing traffic. So I can out monetize, I think, most people out there in the SEO space, because just purely based off of, because I've done so much. For example, partnered out with this health blog. I think in the first month we're going to do first month we did 100K in like revenue generated from our efforts. And we will most definitely hit 200-300K by the end of the year, unless something like a Black Swan event happens. But like the tactics we've used are like, we strike up very private affiliate offers with like supplement businesses. So I would personally, in my network, I know people who have supplement business. I would approach them saying, hey, we already ranked for, I don't know, best protein powder. They sell protein powder. We're going to strike up a huge percentage like affiliate deal. And these things require a bit more like, how do I say, scrappiness that these large companies aren't used to. Like, they're not approaching anyone. They're just going to push to Amazon and call it a day. But we're able to get like a massive uplift on affiliate commissions, and yeah, we're just able to squeeze every dollar out of a session.
So cool. We'll start wrapping.
It's a different business model though.
Yeah, but it's a different business model. But you said the word scrappy, which I think is the most important, because you know what? This is even when I asked you to come on my podcast, I noticed one of the things that you did is you respond and you said, I am available this time on this day. And I was like, oh, he's obviously closing deals, because it's one of the things that most people mess up, where they say, are you free on Friday to chat, right? And it's like, you never say that. You say, hey, are you free on Friday at 2 p.m.? I'll send you an invite. And you get the appointment. And so when you said that to me, I was like, oh, he's used to closing deals. But where I'm going with that is the opportunity that you can have by just working one-on-one with clients, products, just opportunities in general that are so much more of an alignment of a direct fit. You really can like 10x revenue off the same exact traffic, just because you're working with the real specific product that best fits either the search query or just the content in general. A good example, my buddy, years ago, he got into overlanding. I don't know if you ever heard of overlanding. It's basically you buy like a Jeep Wrangler or like a Subaru, and you just soup the shit out of it and you drive across the country, but like not on roads, like off road. And that's all they do. They just soup up their Jeeps and they put tents on like the top of their Jeeps and they just sleep out in the middle of nowhere. And it's really cool. He got into it. And after doing it for a little while in the relationship she built with some of these products, she made a YouTube channel doing product reviews. And then all of a sudden, he's nailing these product reviews. And so he just started his own store. And it's called bigrigshop.com, I think. And it's just a perfect example about what you're talking about, where, you know, if you're like a major company, you can't do that. Well, you can, but they're not going to, because they're just going to take like the most efficient, streamlined way, as opposed to making these individual relationships and say like, hey, I have a video about the best battery pack for my Jeep late at night. Like, I think you're the best fit for that. Would you be willing to either be an affiliate or even a sponsor? And if you can do that, like, you'll make a ton of money. I just think people don't understand that enough. Like, you'll make a ton of money if you can just pay attention to those details.
I agree. And I think if there's people just starting out in SEO, I think the case study space is kind of crazy right
now.
Yeah. Because so I just posted the numbers on Twitter with like how much I made from a YouTube video with like 4K views, and it surprised even me. I think the net was like 4.5K US, and the views was just pathetic. Like at first, I spent 40 plus hours on it, and I thought, man, dude, this is never gonna work. So I think people just need to document, you know, their journey, similar to your friend, and just talk about it, and the money will just come by itself. But don't forget about the money, because there's a lot of great case studies out there, but they never reach out for sponsorships. Everyone should be doing that. Like, you have an idea, you want to execute, reach out to people for sponsorships, and then go from there. It will be like insanity.
I'm talking about the AI tool video you made.
Yeah. But this can be replicated in any industry. Like, it's just the premise of it.
I was super impressed with that. I'm 30% owner in Cuppa, and that
video, I saw. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. That video you made it helped a lot. But so on that video, was there a sponsor in that video, and you just knew that this is so AI targeted that I can pitch a sponsor who's like perfectly aligned with the messaging of this video? Is that how you did it?
Yeah, pretty much. And I also used my backlinks experiment as a case study, because I'm getting the final numbers right now, but I'm pretty sure total revenue driven, so not revenue in my pocket, but total revenue, like the impact of revenue on that video, on the number 1 and 2 and 3rd place of that video is like over 100K. Like, so from that video, people got over 100K in link orders. So I took that, and then I fed it. I used it as a pitch. I'm like, hey, this AI writer is going to pop off. You should definitely sponsor it. And I still think they got a great deal. I got 2 sponsors on it. It was Ahrefs and Surfer SEO. And I think they got a great deal on it. It's still generating traffic. I think it gets like 50 to 100 hits a day. Yeah, it's a interesting business model. I think, honestly, you should be doing it as well. Everyone should be doing this, like, every day, all day, every day. But it just takes so much time.
Yeah, you're right. Like, I'm trying to be more in my YouTube and even the podcast. Like, I've gone 2 years and not had a sponsor, and just figured build the email list. And I don't know anything about it. I'm a little bit like intimidated. Like, where do I even start? But I think the thing is, know what it is you're recording before you record it. You know, like, have a real plan and strategy. Like, this is exactly what I'm trying to do. And then I think the sponsorships around that will be a lot more easy to identify.
I agree. And to your point, where do you start with sponsorships? I think the best place to start with sponsorships is with tools you're using in your day-to-day life. So that's exactly where I started. For example, we have a massive Surfer SEO subscription. I think we paid them like $300 a month. So we just reached out. I'm like, hey, we're a huge user. You can check us out at my email. You can check our account. Heavy user. Want to sponsor us? This video will pop off. And they're like, easy yes. Ahrefs as well. I talk great things about Ahrefs all the time. Stuff like NordVPN has sponsored us in the past. Just stuff you've used, I think it's an easy sponsor because it's on brand, right? I think stuff that's a bit off brand, like, maybe services you've never used, they will convert less. Because that's why I have like repeat sponsorships, right? Because it obviously performed. So it's a no-brainer for them.
Man, you're messing me up in my head right now, because it's even the thought of, for the podcast, I'm thinking, let me get a sponsor that'll just pay every month and just blanket sponsor every episode. Whereas where you're saying like, no, have the video laid out and then know who you want to sponsor for it. And obviously that's like a much more methodical, targeted way to do it, which is what we just talked about, how you'll make more money.
Yeah. I think if you're struggling to get sponsorships for the podcast, what we're doing is we're just filling it with our own products.
Yeah.
Like, hey, this episode is sponsored by Copy Blogger.
Yeah.
Sign up here for our newsletter, you know?
Yeah, me too. Well, man, thank you so much. It's been great following you on Twitter. It's great to learn more about you and what you're building. So we have Indexsy.com, INDEXSY.com. I think the more behind the scenes is probably your newsletter though, right? Marketingletter.com.
Yeah, that's the one where if people want to find out my like exact revenue and net worth, just go sign up for it. I got audited several times by the government because of it, but
Whoa.
still trucking along, man.
Damn. I wish we started off with that, because we're 50 minutes in. I can't backtrack on that now, but geez.
Yeah, my accountant uses my newsletter for like my asset allocation.
Oh my goodness.
So
That's so funny.
yeah, so
all
it's
right.
fully legit, you know, no smoke and mirrors here.
Beautiful. And then at Indexsy on Twitter, smash that follow button. You'll have like one of my favorite cover photos ever. It's just so on brand and hysterical. I love it. Yeah. All right, man. My friend, thank you so much. Really appreciate your time. Let's keep in touch, and good luck on your travels. And congratulations on all your success. You've obviously worked really hard.
Thanks, Tim. Thanks for having me.